Hi, I'm Cecile Matthews, Director of MBA Admissions Consulting at Veritas Prep. In this video, I'll share with you some tips on how to get the best recommendations. Let's start by talking about the importance of a strong letter of recommendation. Do not underestimate the power of your letters of recommendation. A letter of recommendation can mean the difference between being accepted and being rejected. Also, do not underestimate your ability to influence how your recommendations turn out. Applicants spend so much time working on their essays and often overlook their letters of recommendation. It is a big mistake to just leave it to your recommenders, providing minimal input or little to no guidance. While your letters of recommendation will ultimately be written by someone else, that doesn't mean there's nothing you can do. Let's talk about the difference between good and great letters of recommendation. A good letter of recommendation will have a statement like, "He's a strong employee who will do well in the future." This statement has a positive tone, but the language is pretty generic and it lacks tangible details. Contrast that with, "I've managed quite a few young professionals over the past dozen years, and no one has impressed me like," insert your name here. Here's why. See the difference? A higher level of enthusiasm supported by a specific example. The great recommendation will not only tell the reader that you're wonderful, it will also show them through stories and anecdotes that bring you to life. The best letters of recommendation will have statements like, "Sally applicant is a rising star and you'd be a fool not to admit her." Table-pounding levels of enthusiasm, that's the makings of a glowing letter of recommendation. The person writing your letter is obviously a big fan. Strong examples, specific, concrete details, this is what matters a lot to admissions officers who have to choose among thousands of very similar sounding applicants. 2 things you need to do to get the best letters of recommendation. Number 1, select people who can write strong letters of recommendation for you. And 2, prepare them to do so. Let's talk about how to select the best recommenders. Ideally, you'll be able to provide a letter of recommendation from your current direct supervisor. Also, you want to pick someone who knows you well. That's more important than someone who has a fancy title. Ideally, your recommender will have worked so closely with you, they really know you and have seen you in action in numerous settings and circumstances. They're able to provide specific stories or detailed examples that support the main themes that you want to highlight in your application. In a best-case scenario, they're creating an image of you in the mind of the person reading your application. Choose people who believe in you and want you to succeed. Let's also talk about how to prepare your recommenders. You want to equip them with what they need to help you as much as possible. Provide recommenders with a package that will help them answer the questions on the recommendation forms. Start by doing your homework. Visit the website for each school you're applying to so you can create a document for each of your recommenders that lays out the questions they'll be asked to answer and the deadline for each school. Remind them of how long you've been working together and the projects you worked on together. Share with them why you want an MBA and what your short-term and long-term career goals are. Tell them the qualities you're hoping they can speak to in their recommendations. For example, your leadership, innovative thinking, maturity, or teamwork. And provide stories and specific examples they can use in their letter to illustrate your strengths. Prepare them for tough questions too. The one about constructive feedback, remembering to focus on what you learned and how you grew from that experience. Recommenders usually have up to 500 words for each essay, which is quite a lot, so make sure they have lots of good stuff to say. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the grid, the part of the recommendation where they rate you on various qualities or character traits. Make sure you take a look at the grid so you know what your recommender will face. This is a little harder to coach your recommender on, but you can and should communicate to them the importance of being ranked highly in as many areas as possible. Remind them of some of your greatest accomplishments. Ideally, those would demonstrate some of the key qualities you're trying to convey to the admissions committee. Also, have a real conversation. Set up time to talk with your recommenders. Make sure they know how much you appreciate them being an advocate for you, and also that they understand how important a role they're playing in your application to business school. Thank them profusely for taking the time, acknowledging it will take some time, especially if you're asking them to submit recommendations for multiple schools. That being said, if they are the kind of advocates you need who will write you strong, table-pounding letters of recommendation, they will be willing to invest this time to aid in your success. Also, let them know that effusive praise is not unprofessional. In business writing, we tend to write formally and avoid using superlatives. In this case, you don't want your recommender to hold back, and they should know that strong statements that grab the reader's attention will be instrumental in helping your application stand out from the rest. Remember the good versus great statements earlier? Feel free to refer them to those. Finally, be proactive. Let them know that you're available if they have any questions, and let them know you'll be checking in with them. to see how things are going and if there's anything you can do to help. Let me close by saying, at the end of the day, you want your application to convey that you are a must-have applicant, and having great letters of recommendation are a crucial part of your application. If you take away nothing else, remember that your letters should contain table-pounding levels of enthusiasm, so your letters will grab an MBA admissions officer and shout, "This person has it," and you would be a fool not to admit them. Thanks for watching and best of luck.